Well, today I'd like to talk about the treeMOTION EVO. I'd like to unbox the treeMOTION EVO. And yeah, without further ado, it comes in this bag. And the content of the bag, we have the harness. We have a bag with shock cord and this black tubular material. And the user manual. So, to start off with, treeMOTION EVO, as the name implies, is an evolution of the treeMOTION that has been around since 2006. Maybe talk about the common ground that it shares with the treeMOTION. This is all information you'll find in the user manual as well, but basically what it is it's a sit harness and a work positioning harness. It offers me the same properties that the treeMOTION has, which is a wide load distribution over the back because of multiple layers of webbing on the back pad and also on the leg loops. It's easily customizable. Everywhere I've got holes in this material, I can put in the elasticated shock cord with stopper knots behind and the black tubular material over the top to build gear loops. I've got multiple storage points where I can put a vault type tool carrying carabine in here or in here, I have, same as on the treeMOTION, the color coding. So I have green for attachment points. So I've got the side D-rings, the forward D-rings, and as opposed to treeMOTION that had a single rope bridge, I have a double rope bridge on the EVO. I'll talk about that in just a moment, but there's a number of options there. So it's a double rope bridge with knots. I could have a double rope bridge with stitch terminations with a different piece of hardware behind the front D-rings, or also the possibility of different lengths of webbing bridge. So what's new about this is it gives companies that prefer to have their climbers on webbing bridges and rather than knotting, they can use either webbing bridge or stitch termination. On the back, I have a green point here, so that's also load bearing, it's also PPE point as a restraint point. I have the gear loops here and the possibility to store a first aid pack. The other modification we've made is with the buckles. These are all ANSI-rated buckles with a high braking strength with the flush pulls, which you could argue make it a bit harder to open, but is also a safety feature, of course. Because they're flush with the body, there's less risk of them opening unintentionally. And there's a cover here to a sleeve that you can just move over the buckles to keep them clear of debris and any other things that might obstruct the correct opening. One thing I'd just like to touch upon quickly is the rope bridges. These rope bridges are spec'd by the manufacturer. It's a replacement part. It's a Dyneema core in a polyester cover. Dyneema core giving us a high braking strength. It's good for abrasion, and it's just, as I say, just super strong. We have two different colors to differentiate between the two bridges. You can see here in this configuration, this is how it gets delivered with a ring over both rope bridges. Now in this instance, they're acting like a backup. So if one rope bridge were to fail, the other one would keep the climber safe. But you can also run them open. I can have my work positioning system on one and the lanyard on another. I'll just show that in just a moment. So you have multiple options there to configure the harness according to your requirements and your specifications. Similar to the treeMOTION, the end of the rope bridge is finished with a stitch. This is just to keep everything, the core and the cover, together to stop any slippage and also to ensure that enough of the end looks out of the knot so that the end of the line sticking out of the knot is long enough and there's no risk of it creeping back through the knot. There's also a stitch over the two knots. This is just a proof for the manufacturer that this knot came out of the factory tied correctly. the end user can tie the knot according to the manual. And then, if something were to go wrong, if it was tied wrong, there's just a proof for the manufacturer that the knot was tied by the end user. It's not saying, don't undo this knot, it's just saying, this knot was tied in the factory. So, similar to treeMOTION, there's a couple of adjustment points. We have the ventral adjustment up here, we have the riser adjustment here, and the leg loop adjustment here. What these two adjustments are doing is they're adjusting where this piece of hardware sits. I can move it up or down, in or out. So that's going to define how the climber is suspended from the rope bridge. My suggestion is that you start with it well out before you start bringing it in and setting it up exactly. Once you finish all the setup, you have Velcro tabs on the end of the webbing, allowing you to roll them up and just to store them cleanly. So I can just roll this up and just store it out of the way. But again, I'll wait for that until I've finished setting it up. The back pad is same as on the treeMOTION, is removable. So for inspection or for cleaning, or for replacing it, you can remove the back pad. And there's all the technical information on this label hidden behind the back pad where it's stored away and not going to get damaged, not going to get torn off inadvertently. Again, similar to the treeMOTION, the standard treeMOTION, the idea is that these harnesses sit low on your hips. So I've got my pelvis above here, and you can see it sort of cinches down on the pelvis, so that's sitting low. And then, I'm going to do, so if I just pull a little bit there, you can see it's kind of riding up here, so I'm just going to shorten this up a little bit. That looks about right. I'm just looking at the angle, how it runs into the hardware. That seems about right. This is a bit long. Yeah, let's give that a crack. So, just in terms of setup, I'm just going to hang myself in my climbing system here. And really what I'm looking for is a position of almost like neutral buoyancy between pressure on the hips and pressure on the back. So if I've got too much pressure on my hips, I'm going to pull these straps up on the upper risers to bring it in a bit more here. This actually feels about right. The more you bring it in, the more aggressive it gets. But as I say, start with it fairly long. Don't cinch it up on your legs. You can see there's actually quite a lot of room there. Now earlier when I was setting up the treeMOTION, I would go for do this and make sure it's the same. But that's not the way our bodies work. We're not symmetrical beings. So in the end, I'll just set up this side, If it feels okay, I'm good to go. And actually as I'm climbing, I'll just adjust it, just tweak it a bit to get it all sitting right. Finally, the final adjustment you can make is on the rope bridge. You can lengthen or shorten it. You can see this is fairly long now. Part of the decision of how long it is I want to be able to reach the hitch. But the closer in you bring it, the more responsive it gets. It wants to tip you because the attachment point is coming closer and closer to your center of gravity. So the pivot point really comes closer to your center of gravity and it will want to flip you over. The longer it gets, the more forgiving it is. So people who have a sort of very athletic, dynamic climbing style will usually have it a bit shorter, whereas if you have it longer, it's just an easier ride. So it's your call. It depends how your body shape, your climbing style, the structure you're climbing on. There's no right or wrong. It's just again just offering you options. Now I'm just going to add a lanyard on here. So it helps to get it on the right way around. Get it on like that. And obviously there's nothing else on this harness yet, so I can't really store this the way I normally would. Just going to get this in the gear loops. Now, just a quick word on these side D-rings. These standard D-rings are the 358 attachment points. The enë358 is a work positioning system. Your lanyard is the enë358. They're made for horizontal work positioning only. And I'm sure you've been there, that when you attach like this, that feels really awkward. It feels like it's wanting to pull your harness out of shape, because it is. It's not a correct configuration, it's not what it's made for. So in the suspension situation, if I move these forwards onto the forward D-rings, that feels a lot better. It's because these are the 813 attachment points. This is your sit harness. This is exactly the same as if I had my climbing system attached to the rope bridge. So that change from here to here makes all the difference, because it's being used the way it's supposed to be used. So, easy to recognize, it's green, these are attachment points. I wouldn't cross from one to the other. I tend to go front or top. And actually during my daily climbing, I'll constantly be moving my lanyard from the top to the front to the rope bridge. So, because that's the obvious other way I can use my lanyard is by attaching it like so. And by doing so, it extends, basically my lanyard becomes a second climbing system. In fact, why don't we do that? So if I attach him with my hitch climber here, that's one way I might use it. But in fact, you know what? I might just do it like that. Actually, I'm not using the double rope bridge here, because the way I've got it attached now is in the backed up configuration. So the two lines running through the ring. I'm just going to open this up. Now, ideally, or for this to be correct, but I haven't got it set up that way now, I'd be attaching into the ring here. User manual says, you know, use a ring, use a swivel to attach into, but this is just for demonstration's sake. I've got my climbing system on one rope bridge, I've got my lanyard on the other rope bridge. Now what's interesting about this is, because I've got pull in two different directions, this is creating a very stable work position. If I had a chainsaw and I was making a cut, this is really, it's almost as though it's sort of jamming me in position, cinching me in position. If I want maximum mobility, I'll go for a position, or I'll go for something more like this, where the pivot point is here, allowing me to pivot below these 2 points. The pivot point is here. So cinched in position on the two rope bridges, or on one attachment point. That's another alternative that the rope bridge gives you. The other configurations that are spec'd for the rope bridge is using an axis one of DMM's axis swivels. So it's ring or axis swivel. As I say, bridge doubled up as we have it here, singled out where you can have different hardware on it. That's certainly something that's super interesting to me. The other thing that's interesting to me is that using it in a singled out configuration, if I have my climbing system off one bridge and my ascent system on the second bridge, for instance, I know that as long as nothing's attached to this bridge, I'm suspended off my ascent system, my zigzag, chicane, love 2, whatever. And only when I've got something attached to the ring on the second rope bridge, now I know I'm in my climbing system. It kind of makes me, it's like passive safety features, where instantly I can recognize, am I hanging off my second rope bridge or my main rope bridge? That makes it easy for me to differentiate in my climbing whether I'm actually doing what I think I'm doing. So yeah, inspection, the whole inspection regime stays the same as it did for treeMOTION. I'm obviously checking wear on the risers. These are replacement parts. This is replaceable. The lower webbing that runs through the slot, you replace the whole leg loop. The rope bridge is replaceable. The padding is replaceable. So rather than build a harness that is bomb-proof, because nothing's bomb-proof, everything has wear and tear. We've identified wear parts that make it easy for you, for the end user, to replace parts when they're worn and or damaged. So that's the treeMOTION Evo. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to talk about this.